All right, we're ready. Here we are today. We got Jamie Haas. Haas in the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. I know you came to play the PP at San Clemente, and then we'll go over that. And you're going to be playing the APP in Newport. But yeah, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me, DJ. I'm super excited to be here. But yeah, a little bit about myself. My name is Jamie Haas. I live in Hawaii. I have 3 kids. My daughter's 5. Her name is Shadow.
Shadow. Wow, that's a cool name. Nice.
Yeah, my husband. He's the fun one.
Very cool.
I have a son named Legend. He's 3.
Wow.
Yeah. And our youngest boy, his name is Summit, and he's 1.
That is so cool. I never heard, because I've heard maybe like there's like one cool name and the next one gets kind of okay. But the fact that there's 2 cool names on the actual family, that is so cool to me. Have you ever seen How I Met Your Mother by any chance?
It's my favorite show.
Okay,
yes,
because that's my favorite show.
We're gonna be great friends.
Yeah,
that's
let's
my
go.
favorite show.
And so obviously Barney's my favorite, right? And he has this joke where he's like, wait for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I asked my fiance if we can name our daughter. So her name is Layton. So it's Layton. I was gonna say middle name has to be Wait for It, and it's Layton Wait for It Young. That said, she didn't let me go through with it. I think, to me, like, if he came up with, if your husband came up with it and then you let him, kind of, okay, that's fine. I think the both of you are pretty cool to me. So that's awesome.
To be fair, they've got solid middle names. So if they ever decide to go with their middle name later in life, we're totally okay with that.
You gave him an out.
Yeah.
So what are their middle names?
So our daughter's middle name is Kalani.
Okay.
So a little play on words. My middle name is Nalani.
Okay.
And so we just changed it to a K, so it's Kalani.
Yeah, that sounds very Hawaiian.
Yeah, it's Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Means the heavens. And our son Legend, his middle name is Kekoa.
Okay.
Warrior. And our third has a more neutral name, so his middle name is kind of out there. It's Kahuakai.
Okay.
Which means the journey.
Yeah.
So basically, his name in respect means the journey to the top, or like the journey to the
Very
highest height.
They have the coolest names ever.
So
nice.
Some meaning, some background. So
it would have been really funny if you like named them Legend and then just be like, your middle name is going to be Michael. just use whichever one you want, but we gave you the actual option, But that's really cool. Thank you for introducing yourself. I'm super excited for you to be here. I'm super excited to be playing with you in some of these tournaments actually coming up for the PPA Tour.
Yes.
And just to give you a peace of mind, my wrist feels really good. I got some PRP done about a week ago, given the okay next Tuesday to start doing some PT and practicing and things like that. So no cyst, no broken bone, no bad, tendon, whatever. So it's just basically inflammation, trying to get it healed. So I'll be good to go for every single one of our tournaments. So I'm super pumped. That said, I want to get, usually talk about the past, the present, and the future. So just kind of talk about, how you got started into pickleball, why you got, how you got into it, and basically some of your story about it.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to. So I do come from tennis. I played collegiate tennis for a D1 top 25 team.
Awesome.
Fell in love with college, had a good experience, fell in love with college coaching, did that for about 6 years. Was pregnant with Summit, our 3rd baby. And both my husband and I were originally from Hawaii, so we thought it made sense to get closer to family. So we, it's always been a dream to like raise the kids back home. So it kind of made sense. So we decided to go back. We weren't playing pickleball yet, so I think that's what a lot of people ask, like, oh, why are you in Hawaii? But we weren't playing pickleball quite yet. But we were kind of in a crossroads of trying to figure out what we were going to do. Was I going to go back to work? What was I going to do? I gave birth to Summit in December of last year, and via C-section. And 3 months later, I played my first APP in Mesa.
Wow.
Wanted to see the competition. Wasn't quite in match shape yet, but from my background, I felt pretty comfortable with racket sport. I was kind of playing throughout COVID, so just not competitively, but just for fun with friends and things like that. Did decently well. I played my second APP in SAC, took fourth place in singles.
Okay.
So thought, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
My husband, again, we were at that crossroads. We weren't sure what we were going to do, and he just gave me the ultimate support and was just like, "You got to play. Like you can do this. Like you can. You're not in full shape yet. You haven't lost, all the baby weight yet." I didn't slap him for for that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but he's the best. He's been super supportive, and he was like, "Go. Like I'm gonna work." He worked 3 jobs so that I could continue playing, and that I didn't have to work, and that I could try to find practice times and training, balancing watching 3 kids full time.
For sure.
So he was like, "Go, you got to do this." And so about a year and a half later, I finished last year in APP, ranked 12th in singles. Switched over to PPA, and I'm top 20 singles player.
Nice.
Top 40 doubles. And yeah, I think we're just kind of trying to figure out what's the next step from here as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's very cool, right? And I mean, big shout out to the husband for obviously, being such a big supporter. Working 3 jobs sounds like a lot. I work 1, and it's definitely a lot, right? And I think obviously you understand it too. And so, that's Kyle as we're talking about it. But, even if it's just professional pickleball, we're doing the job of 3-4 different people, because you're doing all the bookings, the finances and all these different things, right? Because, maybe you just can't afford to have somebody else do it, right? And then, in my case, I have the podcast, right? In your case, you have 3 kids, which is another 3 full-time job in this case, So how do you find, obviously great husband, but how do you guys find the time to kind of, manage, the pickleball, the kids, and also you guys have to have a really good relationship together, so how do you guys manage all those 3 things at the same time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the best way to answer that is to just take you guys to a day in a life in Hawaii, and what we do on the day-to-day.
For sure.
Which I think makes my story pretty unique in the sense that and as people, I'm one of many, I'm not just speaking on behalf of myself. I feel like I speak on behalf of a lot of females out there with kids who are kind of going through a similar challenge.
Yeah.
So I don't just speak for myself, but just to get a practice schedule in is tough. I can only really practice with people who might seem funny, but people who are kid friendly, because I actually bring all 3 of my kids with me to practice.
Very cool.
And in Hawaii, and that's something that's a blessing that I have being in Hawaii. A lot of people, I don't mean to go on a tangent, but
you're good.
There's been this really negative stereotype on Hawaii saying that, not a lot of pros come out of there, you can't be good playing there. But I just feel, I just don't believe in that at all, because, they don't know my day and day, what I'm about to share with you guys today.
Yeah.
And I can't do what I do in Hawaii on the mainland, in a sense of bringing my kids to practice.
Right.
It's not like I can roll up to a country club and bring all 3 of my kids. I know that's not ideal for everybody. It's not ideal for anyone that I'm practicing with, but I am fortunate to have certain practice partners in Hawaii that are very friendly, and they very supportive of me, my kids, and just family oriented. And they let me bring the kids. They help me watch them. My kids will run on the court. There's disruptions for sure, but I have very good support from my friends and family who will either help me watch the kids. We'll do a group of 5, and we'll rotate in and out, and they'll help me. There's always eyes on the kids or somebody out to help babysit and watch them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, kind of like we always talk about it, the pickleball community, it's so nice, right? And you have to basically be able to, or, you have to find your little group of people and group of friends, and whether it's Hawaii or whether it's California, whether it's Florida, as long as you have those people that are willing to basically play with you, support you, kind of go through, through it with you. I mean, that's the best, you're going to get out of it, right? So obviously super cool to hear. And I mean, I can tell you're extremely grateful for all those people, right? So big shout out to them. But obviously, coming from Hawaii, people saying there's not a lot of people saying that there's not a lot of pros coming out of Hawaii and all this stuff. Like, what does that make you? How does that make you feel? How do you navigate that? How do you want to prove them wrong?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. I think, like I said, there's this stereotype about, you can't make it out of Hawaii, and I think that's a big judgment. They don't know what we're going through in our day and day.
Right.
I would just say that it's, I would say that it's wrong. Like, I don't know any other way to say it. I'm trying to rack my head with a better answer, but it does motivate me. But my main source of motivation comes from my family.
Yeah,
to try to support my kids. The dream is so that my husband has sacrificed so much for me to continue playing. The dream would be for him to be able to quit his job. Like, he basically gave up his pickleball career so that I could keep playing.
Yeah.
And given me the ultimate sacrifice and selfless act. And I hope that pickleball can be an avenue where opportunities do come our way so that we both can share and do it together and do what we both love. So my motivation doesn't necessarily come from people telling me I can't do it, but just more from the support that I get from my family that to say that I can do it. So
For sure.
I think that is a bigger motivation than all the negative stuff out there.
Yeah, no, and you got to stay positive, right? And then again, big shout out. So talk to me a little bit about, obviously, like, they don't know what your day-to-day looks like and what you do to training to get better and how much time you put into it. So if you don't mind just like telling me and telling everybody kind of what that looks like and how you basically plan on proving them wrong.
Yeah. So like I said, I got it. Any practice that I go to, I'm like an hour early because I have to prepare my kids. I have the whole like cart. I bring all the snack bag and all their like activities that they need. So I have this wagon that, and people actually will recognize me from my wagon. Just like, oh, you're that girl with 3 kids and always like pulling your kids with the wagon to the next practice. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. But yeah, so like I said, I kind of talked about how we try to hit the groups, or I drill a lot one-on-one. I do want to give a shout out to my friend Kata. She's a fellow top 20 PPA singles player as well, so she's on the tour as well as like I am, and she lives in Hawaii, so we will practice. She's my primary practice partner out there. And so it's so that and it's just more the off court is probably huge for me. Like trying to get my body. It's still a year and a half since I had my third baby, so it's trying to get my body back in shape where it needs to be to compete at a professional level. So the fitness is really important to me. But yeah, to talk about again that negative stereotype about Hawaii is that I think everybody. I come from college tennis, so I come from training athletes, training myself, and so I think at the end of the day, we all know what we should be doing. Right. It's whether we have the time, and that's where the time management gets tough when you have kids. I may not necessarily have that time to do what I want to do, but I do think, shout out to all the moms out there. I think the little things that you are able to put together throughout the day makes a difference. So like reps, I'm doing my set of curls, and I can't finish my rep because my kid needs something. Like I'll get what I can get, and then I'll come back to it. And that might not be ideal or for some people, but when you have 3 kids running around, you got to be flexible. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned training as a mom now is being flexible. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the way that like people say it has to be. You just find a way to make it work for yourself and your family.
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree. There's actually, like, I totally agree with you. And there's this huge, like, stereotype, right? When it comes to, like, training and being the best version of yourself and all these things, that people get lost in, like, the, social media world, because everyone, like, all these people, whether they're famous or not or whatever, is like, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. and, like, you have to be at the gym by 4:15, and you work out for, like, 3 hours, and you get up and, like, you leave the gym and you go shower, and then now you go, like, eat your food and you go back to the gym, and it's like what are you talking about? Like, that's, like, unsustainable. So, like, you basically have to do the things that you believe that needs to be done, and whether you do it in an hour or 45 minutes or 3 hours, as long as they get done, it's fine, right? And that's kind of how I view it. Like, I used to get lost in the, let me wake up at 5 a.m. and then, like, 2 weeks later, I'm like, I am exhausted out of my mind, right? It doesn't work with me. So, I'm more of a natural, like, 7 a.m. wake up time. Like, I feel good, and I, wake up, take my time, drink a little coffee, like, go on a walk. Like, obviously I have the privilege to do so, just because, I got blessed. But that said, like, like, whether you do that or whether it looks a little bit differently, as long as you get your day-to-day stuff done, like, I don't see an issue with it. But then again, huge shout out to you. Like, I have a kid of my own, and, my fiance does, like, 95% of the work, right? And then the 5% that I do is mostly related to
It's a big
money.
5% though. You're
Big five.
solid. You know?
Big five.
Like,
I'm right
anything,
there.
anything is helpful.
I'm right there. I'm just like, she's, like, changing a diaper. I'm just like, you got this. You got this. But obviously, like, where I come from is kind of having that emotional support, as having some of that, obviously financial support, where she doesn't have to worry about anything. But 3 kids would be a lot harder to deal with. So shout out to you for playing such high level of pickleball. But I know we talked a little bit about sponsorship and all these things, right? So obviously you have Speed Up right there. So if you want to tell us a little bit about who they are, what they do for you and all these things, that'd be amazing. And big shout out to them.
Yeah, big shout out to Speed Up. I love those guys. It's a company based out of Seattle. 2 great guys, Santosh and Mac. They started off as friends first, and then it's a elongated handle, so it's a 6 inches. Yeah. So I play a lot of singles, so having that extra, and I come from tennis, so having that extra inch on the paddle, I feel like really helps my drives, and all my rolls, and your roll dinking is becoming really popular now. In the game. So I think it gives me the power that I need, and like I said, it's been really fortunate for us to find a paddle company that is run by good people and that just give us a lot of support. We've struggled a bit trying to find the right fit for us as far as, like, paddle company wise. But they support us, and they're good people, and I can't hammer that enough, is that it's nice to support a company that is also run by good people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and you've been playing with this paddle for a long time, I believe, and it's a carbon fiber one, right? And it has, like, this orange edge around it, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Got a little fireball pickleball.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
no, that's amazing. So when you go to, obviously you travel from Hawaii and you come to all these tournaments, a lot, the schedule can get a little bit crazy, right? Like, back-to-back weekends. You're not signed, I believe, so you're able to play basically whatever you want, right? So you can play PPA, PP, MOPs. So when it comes to, like, scheduling itself, like, what do you prioritize, the most?
Yeah, I think, again, shout out to my husband. He's awesome because he does most of my scheduling and my flights.
Wow, what is?
Yeah, so he's awesome. He's basically got 4 jobs because he's doing all that planning and stuff too. So he's awesome.
I have to go talk to him.
He's awesome. But I think our goal is to try to group tournaments together. So especially if they're back to back, so like Kansas City and Bristol, like it's important to, or like, sorry, for even this week, we've got San Clemente and then Newport for this week. It's nice to be able to not have to go all the way back home to Hawaii and, take that 5.5 hour flight and then come all the way back. It's hard on the body. So we just try to group them together, hit as many as we can. When we're on the mainland, I think coming out of Hawaii, that one of the hardest challenges is probably the networking.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that I would kind of does kind of ring true. Is it is a bit tough to network out of Hawaii because the pool of professional players is smaller than on the mainland, just naturally by the size. So I try to use this time to network, to meet people, to talk to other pros, and thank you again for having me on here because I get to talk to you and we get to share some great conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just the networking is important. So especially grouping them together helps me to, on days off or training days, play with other professionals out here.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about networking, right? Because I kind of touched before, not with you, but I kind of talked to people about, back in the days where I started, like 2018, there was basically like one really good player per state, so like, and everyone else was like, okay, but like, it's like, okay, like, I kind of need to get better. So I want to go play with better players. So then you would practice, but then at these tournaments, all you do is just play pickleball because you just want to play with all the best players, right? Nowadays, it's getting to the point where you're getting like a lot more better players in certain areas, right? So when you go to Austin, for example, you have like Deco, Ben Collin, Jack Monroe, Julian. I mean, you have like all these people, right? If you go to Florida, you have Christian Jidab, Annalie, like Will Howells. Like you have so many people, right? So it makes it a lot easier for these people to like network and know each other and kind of practice. And then the one thing that, in my opinion, and you can give me your opinion on this too, is like when it comes to like MLB drafting, for example, right? Like there's always people, so like they'll pick the first player, and then their first player that's picked, so the quote unquote captain with the owner or coach or GM, they kind of pick the best possible team they can around their first pick, right? So a lot of the times, especially when it comes to like the fourth pick, I feel like it's more based on who they want to play with or who they think is like the best. Well, I mean, I guess if it was who the best fit is like, the best possible way to go regardless. But then it's tougher for the people that are, battling day in, day out and going through, all the struggles and the tough times and then getting good results and then it doesn't fully translate. Right. So there's like there's this almost like disconnect that I call it when, you're going through all these tournaments and grinding and doing well. Then like, oh, I didn't get picked, or I didn't get picked where I wanted to or where I thought I should get picked or whatever it is. So I guess like, just to kind of let you chip into that is like, what are your thoughts on how the drafting works? Like, do you think you should have been drafted, even though it's a tough position to be in, right? Like, how do you view all that?
Yeah, I don't expect anything. I want to earn everything that I get. So, I wasn't. I think there was a lot of emotions flying through during that draft period.
Yeah.
I do agree with everything you said about how maybe being in Hawaii, it's the regions maybe played a part in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest emotion that I felt during the draft was probably confusion. I think that either I've beaten, besides the ones that have already been just recently traded in, I've definitely beaten and competed with most of the players that are on the Challenger draft teams.
You beat me and Judith.
Well, that's team up in Kansas, so we can be on the same team, not opposing. But yeah, I do have a lot of belief in myself, and more importantly, I do, as you touched on earlier, like I do think my results speak for itself too. I'm not just, and again, it's, I think there's a lot of players out there who have good results too, and didn't get a look at, and I think it's just my biggest emotion is probably confusion. Like what are we doing wrong? What do we need to do to get to just get a chance? Like what do we need to do to get more looks? Or in your opinion, a question to you: what do you recommend for somebody in my shoes? And players in my shoes? What do you think we should do?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, right? So I would say the biggest thing that you can possibly do in people like your case, it's a little bit differently, right? Because if you're like in my case, when I was 19, I decided to just grab my car and go to Texas. Right? I was like, okay, I'm not getting enough practice in California. I'm far from everybody. So like, I'm just gonna get my car, go to Texas and play with Deco or whatever, this and this. So like in your case, and I think there's actually a lot of people that feel like you do, whether they're married or not, whether they have kids or not, whether they're single, like they just feel like they can't really break through, right? For some reason. And like to me, the breakthrough itself, it doesn't necessarily always come like on court, right? To me, it's like, what can you do off court that's gonna make a huge difference, right? So nowadays, the way that I view it is social media is huge, So even though you might be working harder than everybody else, if you don't show it, people don't see it, right. Where I would say like 5 years ago, if you were winning, that's really all that mattered. But because there's just so many eyeballs around everything, you can almost, I don't want to say fool people, right? Because you don't want to fool people, but you can kind of like paint the picture however you want it to be painted, right? Which is, in my opinion, it could be a negative. I try to view it as a positive, right? So I would say for, people that are in your situation, I would just start just kind of like showcasing what you truly do, like day-to-day life, and kind of showing people that you are practicing, that you are at tournaments, that you are doing things, instead of just like, oh, I went to this tournament, I got fourth, but like nobody knows. So you kind of have, like in my opinion, you kind of have to like really push it out to the world for everyone to see, On the other hand, obviously like results are a big thing, but I don't know if they're the biggest thing, because you can't go from 0 to 100. You kind of have to like get there somewhat slowly, kind of like how Dylan Frazier did, playing at 13 or 14 years old. Now he's like 23 and he's number one in the world, right? So it's one of those things where you kind of have to escalate however you can. So it's like, okay, realistically, in your case, how far are you from getting picked into the challenger, right? Like, how can you make a difference, and what can you provide to a team outside of just like, I'm a lefty that plays the right side really well, right? So then I try to view it as like, what can I do for this team, right? What can I do for this company, right? A big thing like we talked about before is like sponsorships, right? Like we all need more money to help cover all the costs that pickleball comes with it, because it's very expensive. So in your case, I believe you're paying everything out of pocket, which if you're listening, please sponsor my girl.
Thank you.
God, please.
Yes. We need help.
Yeah, please. I mean, she's one of the best players I know in the women's side does not sponsor. So please just get it done.
Thank you.
But that said, one thing that I would do is, first of all, reach out to companies, right? Because if you're always waiting for, and I'm not saying you are, but if you're waiting for them to reach out to you, you have to understand that there's a lot of people like you out there too, just like there's a lot of people like me, So what I do is I reach out to certain companies that I feel like I align with in terms of like what they provide, what they do, like who they are as teams, just kind of like how you do with Speed Up, right? And then instead of asking them what I want, I basically tell them what I can provide for them.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, hey, like, I invested in myself. I think I can do X, Y, and Z for you, right? So in my case, like, I have a really nice website done. I have the podcast now, right? Like I'm a PP, MLP signed player. I'm probably going to go in like center court here and there. Not lately because of my wrist, but, so there's all these things. And on top of that, I also create all this content for people to see it, right? So whether it's Instagram, Twitter, or X, right? TikTok, YouTube, like I'm a little bit of everywhere, right? Yeah. Where, for a lot of people, like in your case, it's like she's a very good lefty, but what can she do for me? Yeah. That's how I view it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I always try to put myself in like somebody else's shoes and, see or try to think what they would think, or try to think what they would think, right? So in our case, with me and my boy Nick right here, as we're really good friends. We're from high school actually, and obviously we reconnected more and more as we started working together. But there's a lot of things here that we do that we're both learning and growing together, right? So it's like, okay, maybe I want something a certain way, and how do I tell him that? So like I think about how would he want to hear it, maybe
Yeah.
he's like, hey bro, like just fucking get it done. Somebody else might be like, hey man, like do you mind doing this, so just kind of like dancing around that would be a really good way to start. But I think you're also doing a good job, like when you come to these tournaments and you have like 2 weeks back to back, like you want to be going out to a lot of these places. You want to be talking to the right people. You want to be practicing with the right people too, right? And I don't know if you do this or not, but what I would do too, and I'm just a very curious person regardless, but it's like, if I go to Newport, it's like, okay, like who's the owner? Like, who's running all this? Like, how do they like, but I'm also just very curious, so I'm like, okay, like when did these courts like when do they get resurfaced? Like just like the weirdest shit I'm just curious about, so I just like, it's like, oh, like, like who started this? Like why pickleball? Why this? Like, and then, one thing leads to the other person, like somebody comes out, starts talking to you, then you make a relationship with them, and it's super natural. You're just curious, and they happen to be a good person. But if you like, if you go to a place and kind of like sit and play some pickle for 2 hours and leave, like not a lot of good things happen.
Yeah.
Especially in my case, like I know people. I want people to be nice to me because I'm nice. I'm nice to them, right? So it's like, literally, like if there's somebody at the Newport Beach Club where you're going to be playing, there's like somebody taking out the trash. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing? Like, good job. You start to be like, nice and polite to everybody. And I'm not saying you're not. I'm sure you are because I know you. But yeah, that would be like something that I would do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the insight on that. That's very helpful. Mm-hmm. I've also been recommended to, when you talk about social media, like, what's your opinion on like hiring a social media manager, or do you think that you should just do it yourself, make it more authentic? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's like a lot of different ways to go about it, right? So when you start, like in my case, when I started the podcast itself, you want to do a lot of research on it, So obviously the fancier and the more quality you want to do, the more money you're going to have to spend. That said, unless you're a millionaire, which I'm not, like, you basically just budget everything. Well, you budget regardless, right? You can just budget everything. So I would say you have to see what you value the most. I would say you have to make a choice and kind of understand why and how you want to portray yourself out there. So in my case, like I like to do everything with like a nice camera, even if it takes a little bit more work, even if it takes a little bit more money out of my pocket, but I can afford it. And I, just kind of get a good quality video regardless of what I'm doing, But there's a lot of very successful people, I don't know money-wise, but at least on social media, that all they do is they put their phone up on a tripod and they record themselves saying like, this is how you hit a backhand punch. And they go, here. And they get like 70,000 views, right? Yeah. Now, I don't want to be that guy. There's nothing wrong with being that guy. If that's how you want to go about your brand, I think that's awesome. But I think the biggest thing is doing stuff that you feel comfortable doing, that you feel comfortable sharing. And I would just say, do some research, figure out how you want to go about it, right? Like there's actually a really good example where, so my fiance's best friend, she's like Instagram famous. She has like 120,000 followers. Kaden Smith, go follow her. That said, like, she's a mom. That's her full-time job. She's a mom, but she records what she does with her kids. So she gets paid from all these places to like, hey, like go to Din Tai Fung, we'll pay you like X, Y, and Z with your kids and just record, right? And I think you overall, like, I don't want to eat food with a phone recording me necessarily, but it's something that I think you can get comfortable with. But it's also like the coolest thing ever, right? Yeah. Like you go to Din Tai Fung, it's paid for. Do you like Din Tai Fung? You don't know Din Tai Fung? It's like a Taiwanese place. Oh, it's really good. It's like a really good restaurant, but they serve dumplings and stuff. But yeah, basically, like she gets to go there. Everything's paid for. She gets a check, and then she's with her family, right? So I would say, like, within you, like there's got to be something out there that works for you. So it's like, I mean, I don't know what it is. I feel like deep down, but it's like, if you do all these trips playing pickleball, and then you bring your kids with you and your husband records you, and just do it naturally. Just put a camera up there, hit with your kids, just record stuff and put it out there. I think I think there's going to be a lot of people out there are going to be like, oh, like she's a mom and like she can do all of this. Like that's great. But if you don't share, then people will never know.
Yeah.
You know, I can think of so many ideas. We should talk more.
I should hire you.
We should talk more. But let me actually answer your question, which I didn't do. I would only hire a social media quote unquote manager if you really need to, because I don't think most people do. You know, I think we're past the days where all these 30-second reels of playing a tournament are over. You know, they don't get as many views, right? I have, even if you go to my Instagram, you know, I have a very well done professional video done where I'm, you know, playing a match and it gets 2,000 views and you can go see it. And then I have a video recorded on a phone with like a couple captions on it that has like 25,000 views. So you have to find what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have to basically be okay with doing it over and over and over again. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, for you, I'd say like, you know, like I think it's such a cool thing. I think it's such a cool thing that you're doing what you're doing with playing such high level pickleball, traveling, having 3 kids, like there's a story that you can share within you that's like who you are in your real life that a lot of people are going to be like, that's amazing. You know, and they want to see it. They just don't know about it. You know, in my opinion, like the coolest thing that I've seen so far, it's actually like Dylan Frazier, because I always mess around with Dylan. I'm like, hey, dude, like the people love you so much because they see you and they think they can do everything that you can. You know, he's like a random dude, like 5'10" from Missouri, you know, that didn't even play tennis. And like, well, I don't play tennis. I'm 5'11". Like, I can be the number 1 player in the world, right? Yeah. But then when they look at LeBron and they're like, this guy's like 6'9", 250 pounds of muscle. Like, I can't do what he can do. But it's like, I think that's where you can connect with a lot of people, because a lot of people are married. A lot of people have, well, in your case, you know, your husband, but you know, they could have a boyfriend or they could have a fiance or whatever. They could have kids, and they're like, oh, fuck, if she can do it, I can do it. So I think you could share a really, really nice, good story out of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to go off that, I think at the end of the day, I think to have this opportunity to play a professional sport, it's nice to be able to just inspire and just like encourage the next generation or someone who is going through something that I'm going through. So at the end of the day, like that's definitely one of my goals too.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's amazing. So, yeah, no, big shout out to all of you moms. I mean, I know how hard it is now that I have
and
one.
And you dads
yeah,
deserve a lot of credit as well.
We do okay. But yeah, that's it. So, you know, what does your schedule look like this year? Obviously, you know, traveling and stuff, and you've been to a lot of the tournaments. And how do you deal like missing your family? And you know, what are your plans moving on forward?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I find ourselves at a crossroads of trying to figure out what to do, because you know we are paying for everything out of pocket. You know, at the end of the day, it would be nice to play and break even at least, but sure. You know, we're definitely in the negative from all the travel and the expenses that come with it. I wanted to take this time to also give a big shout out to the ones that are watching my kids right now. So basically that's my husband, but his mom and my mom, she flew over from California. They're in Hawaii right now. And they're watching the kids. So this is a 2-week trip for me. So they're watching the kids full time. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody, especially with my kids. So they're incredible. They're like the 2 most selfless people that I know, including my husband, Bryson. So just want to give a big shout outs to the moms, the grandmas out there, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do if it wasn't for them. So thank you, Mom. Love you.
Yeah, thank you. Like she's playing with me because of you.
Yeah. So we're taking it tournament by tournament. We are paying for everything out of pocket. You know, if for some reason down the road that changes and we are able to get a little bit more financial help from, you know, a sponsor or something like that, which is the goal. We're trying for that. You know, every day, as you said, you got to keep pushing and keep asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now there's no definite future scheduled because we have to take it day by day when you're paying for everything out of pocket.
For sure.
You're not sure when the next opportunity will come, next tournament will come. So that's kind of also why, if you've seen me play, I play with a lot of passion and energy because I know it means a lot for every player, but for my story in particular, I never know, and for many others too. Again, not just myself, but you never know when it's going to be your last match, your last tournament. So many tournaments ago, I thought it was the last one. It was the last one. Then I got DJ Young to ask me to play a few tournaments, and I was like, okay, let's figure out. We went. My husband and I went back to the drawing board, went back to the family, our moms, and we were like, what can we do? Can we make this work? Like, how can we put these? Okay, let's take it 2 tournaments at a time. Then can we make these 2 line up? Does it work for your schedule? Does it work for your schedule? So there's a lot of back and forth with trying to just even get me out here to the mainland. So there's a lot that goes into it. And yeah, just very grateful, very thankful for when I can be on the court.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have the answer to this. I don't know if I've even asked it, but obviously you guys are in Hawaii because of family. But you also mentioned his mom and your mom flew out of California, right, to watch the kids. So could there be a possible move in the future? California is very expensive.
What a question.
Yeah. Could there be a possible move? Maybe here, maybe somewhere else, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, is there something you can do or you guys can do as a family where you leave Hawaii? It's like, okay, we're gonna do this from here.
Yeah, I love that question because I think it definitely is something we think about every day. Like I said, before we moved to Hawaii initially, we had planned as a family to always move back home. That's where we want to raise the kids, culture, respect. We think that's something we want to surround our children with.
For sure.
With that being said, I think they're so young right now. They don't know where they're at. They think they're on vacation every day.
Yeah, for sure.
So my husband's family all live in Hawaii. And then my family is also from Hawaii, but my parents live in California. So it's just my family in California because my brothers live in California. But yeah, with that being said, I think if a pickleball opportunity came forward to us where we could make it a full-time job, and like I said, that's the goal for a few years, yeah, I think we would consider relocating to the mainland. Just to help with the travel, I think is the number one. And that's probably the only thing that I'll say will be, and the financials that go with the extra travel out of Hawaii, that would be helpful.
What are your thoughts on, so like, when I think about pickleball, how expensive it is, right, for everybody, like the first thought that comes into my head is like, okay, like, if I'm going to go play pickleball and I want to save or keep as much money as I possibly can, I would move into a very, very, cheap state where, the flights are cheap, like the rent is cheap, whatever. You can get something on the nicer side because everything's kind of like a new construction, right? So that's kind of what I think about. On the other hand, I know, I don't know, but I think there's a couple couples out there with kids where they have an RV, like a big RV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like, is either one of those options like off the table, even like without the sponsorship money, or is that like on the table where like, okay, like maybe we do this for a year and see what happens, or are you just kind of like that's not really a thing that I want to do?
I think that's tricky. I mean, I don't think we wouldn't say no to anything. We're not going to never say never, right? Like, I don't think that we're closing off any doors. We want to keep everything open, especially since we've already invested so much into it right now and kind of see some progress with it. So I don't know, like it's open and we're open and we're just kind of waiting to see what the next step is.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, that's it. Very cool. But that's it. So what are you're taking it tournament by tournament, right? So outside of, getting sponsored and, trying to, fully pursue this full time, getting paid hopefully soon. What are kind of like your you know, like athletic professional pickleball goals like? And what's something that you really want to do? Do you really want to be in an MLP team, or what does that look like to you?
And again, another good question. And the way I would answer that is, I think to be completely honest, sure, there's goals in regards to like numbers or like, being able to be on an MLP team or something like that. But I think I can speak and be relatable to a lot of other up and coming professionals. That is just an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And, when you don't get drafted, your heart sinks. And when, I actually have been called twice to be drafted in last season and this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up going with somebody else. And that's hard, but that's life.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And with that being said, there's going to be another door that opens down the road, and I believe that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps us going. So before, it was something like, being drafted. But those are things that are just way out of my control, that it's too tough to just say, I want to be on a team. So I think for me to stay focused and to stay more head steady and not so emotional.
Yeah.
Is just to try to, I know it's a cliche answer, but just try to be the best player that I can be. I have little goals with my game that I'm trying to hit. So it's more like a day-to-day than more like a month-to-month or a year-long picture. I mean, sure, I would love to give numbers and be drafted on that team, but it's too emotional for me, and I just have to stay steady. So
yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of ups and downs and ebbs and flows that people don't really see, right? Like even, I mean, like I can see only for myself, but that said, like obviously this year for me, when it comes to like my wrist, like I thought it flared in the beginning, then it was good for like 4 months, and then one morning I woke up and said, "What?" So then I went to the doctors like right away, like what's going on, and it's like you slept wrong on it. Like I literally slept the entire night.
Had the baby in there.
So I was like, okay, he's like, just like rest it and just like sleep with a brace every single night of your life, basically, until you stop playing pickleball. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting that, something like that can happen. I was like, okay, whatever. And then obviously, not being able to play like this last MLP, like, it's kind of like makes me a little bit sad, but kind of knowing that I'll be fine, and I'll be fine for, firstly, MLP Utah, and then for our tournaments as well. But yeah, there's just so much up and down, and you don't know what's going on. And then like that, 30 seconds later, you get a phone call, and it's like, you're dropping me? Like what? And then you like 2 minutes later, oh, I'm getting picked up. Like, there's like so much stuff, right? And then like partnerships is a big one too for the PPA events or APP, whichever one you're playing. And I don't know if it happens to you where like you have a partner and like 2 weeks before the thing, like they drop you, like what did just happen? You know what I mean? It's like I can't go play now. It's like it's so all over the place.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Does that happen more in the men's with being dropped than in the females, or would you say like females are just as ruthless with dropping partnerships and?
I don't want to be rude to anybody out there.
A bad question.
No, it's a good question. I'm just gonna say like I don't have all the information necessary, but from my experience and kind of like what and I've been around for a long time too, like since 2018, like I actually find the female like more ruthless than the males.
I would imagine so.
Like I really do, especially when it comes to mixed. And there's a little bit of drama too, but
sorry to open that can of worms.
No, you're good. I think it's good. So like on the male side, to some extent, there's like a camaraderie that comes with it. Like, hey, like, I said I would, so I'm going to do it. And obviously you're going to get a couple people here and there that are going to be like, oh, I want to play with this person instead. But from my experience, at least, like even the people that have bailed on the men's side have been like, hey, dude, like, I can't miss out on this opportunity. Like Riley Newman asked me, and I'm like, bro, like you go for it. Like because if it was me and I was going to ask you, like I would do the same thing. If like Ben was like, hey, like, I need a partner for this one. And I'm like, Zane, bro, like, do you mind? Like, this is like my one chance, So I totally get it. But I don't believe in like, I'm going to change this person to this person for no reason, right? What I realized on the mixed side for me, not in the, when I play mixed with with a female, is that like not only there's like not only like the respect and kind of like loyalty is missing, but it's also like, I mean, they'll like straight up like lie about it too. It's like,
savage.
oh, I can go to this. Yeah, I can go to this. And I mean, there's guys talk about this on the Airbnbs and stuff at night too. It's like, I can go to this tournament. Sorry. Like, hey, okay, no worries. I hope everything's okay. Like, best of luck to you. And then like right before the deadline drops, they just like picked up a different guy. And it's like, and then you ask them and they're like, oh no, it's just now I can play. And yeah, like I would have told you we already had a partner. And then you ask the guy because you're friends with him. Yeah. And then he's like, dude, like she told me you couldn't play. And I'm like, what is going on? Yeah. Especially like I guess on my side of things, like I'm pretty chill, I'm pretty laid back. Like if you want to go and play with somebody else, like that's cool by me. Like I especially like I don't want to play with somebody that doesn't want to play with me anyways, right? But like at least with the guys, it's always been like, A to B. Like, hey, like do you want to if I play with this person? Fuck yeah, go for it, dude. Like if I play against you, I'm gonna try to beat your ass. But like if not, like best of luck, Yeah. And then like on the mix side has always been like, oh no, but I can play not, and it's like, oh my god, like just tell me you don't want to play, like it's fine, like not a big deal. So I guess like it's a long answer to your question, but
just curious.
Yeah, but I would say on the woman's side it's been a lot worse, at least from the mixed. But good question. Yeah, that's really funny. No, very cool. So tournament by tournament, and yeah, I think you start recording everything that you do.
Yeah.
Like pick and choose like just kind of what you want to put out there, not put out there. I also think like hiring a videographer is way more expensive than hiring like somebody to just like edit the video where you can just send the files, and then you can keep it super simple, do it on your phone, and then if you start getting some ROI on it, then like, okay, maybe I'll just, or you can even edit it yourself. I mean, whatever you want if you want to learn that. But you can always talk to somebody on Fiverr and try to get something out of it. But yeah, no. So when you look at your game, in the sense of who you are as a player, like how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, for those who don't know me, I'm a lefty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would describe my game as being a crafty lefty.
Mm-hmm.
So placement over power for sure is going to ring true to me. That being said, I'm a good mover. I move pretty well. So shout out to the new head pickleball shoes.
There we go.
Because they're sick.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. I'm moving at the speed of light with them. So I love them. But my movement is key. So that's why I do a lot of off court because conditioning. Because if I can get my body where I feel confident, then I feel good about my game. So my movement is key. My crafty. Trying to be as slippery as possible, like off footing, holding certain shots, with my forehand, going inside in, or going inside out, throwing up a lot, just trying to mix it up, it up and just being as slippery as possible. Yeah.
No, that's very cool. And you mentioned obviously the off training off the course. So are you doing sprints? Are you doing ladders? Are you doing are you going to the beach and doing some work on the sand? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. So, we have and so nobody come rob my house, but we have our gym outside in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so shout out to a good friend of mine, Colby. She's like my workout partner. She keeps me accountable for my workouts. So sometimes when I don't feel like working out, she'll come over, she'll help me watch the kids, and we'll work out together. So big shout out to my friend Colby for keeping it real.
Very good.
But that, or just a lot of, it's like, so I guess another example would be, we have a park right down the road from our house. I'll take the kids, they play in the playground. I'm that crazy lady jumping on step to step, doing plyometrics. So,
Nice.
I'm throwing the workouts in with my everyday life.
Just find a way.
Yeah, there's like a hill, and I put them in the wagon, and I sprint up with them in the wagon.
And you make it super fun.
Yeah,
awesome.
they think they're on a roller coaster, and they're having the time of their life.
You're like the crazy. You're the crazy mom that's doing all that, and I'm like the dude on the side, just like, what the fuck is she doing?
Yeah. So that would be me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And obviously, having played all these tournaments and kind of doing what you're doing, like what experience has been the best, and what has been like the worst? So kind of like the yin and the yang sort of thing.
In regards to tournament results,
Yeah, like the best. Yeah, whatever. Maybe like the
Yeah.
best person you play with, maybe the best venue, kind of like all of it together.
yeah.
Like just best experience or worst experience overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that question because it's hitting all the feels of my journey.
Yeah.
Because I come from tennis, and tennis is more, at least from college tennis, I think you don't play as many matches. Like let's say you have a tournament and you're prepping for it for months and months, and then you go play. Right. So you don't play as much. So the emotional roller coaster isn't as great as pickleball, because I think in pickleball you play more. You could play every weekend, and in tennis you would never do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody could at that point.
Yeah. So, from pickleball, I could. That's why I talked about trying to be more steady-headed. Is I could take, 5 losses back to back, or however many it may be, playing good players. Everybody's good on tour. But that's emotionally really, really hard. But the weekend before that, maybe I could have had the best match of my life. I played Lauren Stratman, beat her, lost to her the weekend before, and then pulled out a dub the weekend after.
Right.
So
Singles?
in singles.
Nice.
So things can just change from a matter of days, and it's so crazy in my thought process coming from tennis, where it's you need months and months of training before you can change your results, I guess. And I'm not really sure what it is. I'm sure confidence and it has a lot to play with it, but it's an interesting type of professional schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting you talk about that too, because I always thought of it as in seasons. So what I've realized over the time that I've been playing pickleball is that, you have like four quarters basically, or you could get 2 halves, whatever. But the first quarter, everyone's kind of like either getting back into it in the very beginning of the year, or, maybe they've been practicing a bunch, maybe they haven't been practicing because they have like families, whatever it is. Maybe they went to Spain, hang out, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there you see a lot of upsets in that very beginning, and then usually in the beginning of the year there's also like it's colder everywhere, so the ball's harder. So it affects the way so for some people it helps, for some people it doesn't help, maybe whatever, so it's a lot more fast paced. And as you start leaning into kind of like the mid season, it gets hotter. So then the people that play like, quote unquote true pickleball, like the dinkers, the droppers, the stuff like that, you see them getting better, doing better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, that's when you start seeing upsets again, because everyone's just like burned out. Like we played way too much pickleball. The ball's getting like cold again. There's all these super fast paced points. I've been playing like 7 tournaments in a row, 7 weekends. I've been out of the house for like 5. And then that's when you start seeing a lot of upsets. So I think a lot of it has to, like, we play so often and so much that to me it's all mental.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, Ben has been doing so good for so long. Right. Where it doesn't matter if it's, obviously a little bit of ups and downs compared to like everyone else, where it's like all over the place. Well, for Ben, it's, he's playing just as good in the beginning as he is at the end a lot of the times. And maybe it's a little bit differently like this year or the year before, where it's been, he's lost a little bit more than he would, but still amazing what he does, right? But yeah, that's kind of like how I see it. Like, obviously, like you were saying, like, you lost to Lauren and then you beat her the next week. So then for you, it might be like a thing where, okay, like the first, I did a back-to-back 2 weeks. The first one is like, I'm getting into it. The second one, I feel great. And then for her, it could be where, she had 3 in a row, and the fourth is like, oh my God, like I'm so tired. I'm so over this. and I'm not saying it's an excuse or anything. It's like, and huge congrats to the win, but it's like you just never know what's actually going on, and we just play and do pickleball so often.
Yeah.
You know, that, I mean, it's just crazy. I remember playing with Dylan APP 2022 December in Arizona, and you know, it was the last tournament of the year. We were both doing full schedule PPA, APP, MLP,
Oh, wow.
and Dylan and I are super close, like super close. And it was the last tournament, was like December something, right before Christmas, and we're in Arizona. It's like cold, it's raining, and all this stuff. We're moving venues, and we were playing the match, and he's like, "Bro, I don't want to play." And I'm like, "Dude, I totally get it. Don't even trip about it." And he's like, he's like, "Dude, I don't want to be here." And I was like, "Dude, let's just play, whatever. Like, not a big deal." We ended up playing. We lost like in the second round, and then at the time, there was like comeback around. So I think like as he got like warmed up and playing, because we had to play at 7 a.m. the first match.
Wow.
And as we got back and playing, we moved indoors, and I was like 12, and he had some barbecue in him, and he's like, "I'm pumped. Let me play left. I'm going to take the entire court." And there's just so much up and down, like whether it's before the tournament, like mid tournament, or at the end of the year. Like it just doesn't, it makes a huge difference. But sorry to go on a rant there.
No, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do the usual. I'm going to give a shout out to my sponsors. So thank you so much, Drippin, Pesacor, Head. Great shoes. And also, we'll never forget about Stack. I am sorry I'm not wearing your shirt today. It got dirty. But that said, use the code at the end, DJ Young. Please do. Last but not least, like and subscribe. And I will just say, obviously, like, if there's anybody out there that's trying to sponsor somebody really cool, if they're trying to help somebody, if they're, looking for a good lefty, like, just, sponsor her. Let us play some more tournaments together. Let's do this. And yeah, just opening up the pot to whatever you want to talk about, if there's anything out there that you are interested in.
No, again, just wanted to give a few shout outs to my friends back home who support me. I think the theme of this podcast has been my appreciation for my friends and family who let me do what I'm able to do, because it takes a village, and it's no joke just to even get practice time to be out here. So again, I want to take the time to thank my practice partner, Kata. She, you'll probably see her out there. She's a Russian girl. She's awesome. She's very fiery, and we all love that. Another one of my friends is out here too. He just medaled to gold in 5-0 men's dubs.
Nice.
So shout out to Icona. Thanks for all the practice sessions. We have a great group of support out in one of the areas that we play in Eva Beach, Mexico. So shout out to Blaine, Hot Shot Pickleball. He does a good thing, and he's always reposting and doing all my stories and stuff. So he helps me with social media a lot. So
very cool.
Can give him a lot of credit to that. Again, Speed Up. Thanks again for everything, for giving me the paddle to wield to kick some ass. So thank you for that. Another guy who does our social media, his name is Zach. He's shout out to his company, Natch Pickleball. It's a local company. We try to support local as much as we can. So Team Hawaii, always Team Hawaii. I guess ending statement would be to, one of our goals is to continue to play with aloha. That's something from Hawaii. Everybody that plays out of Hawaii, that's something that holds true to our heart, to play with aloha. It means to play with passion, wear your heart on your sleeve, but also be kind in the process. I think there needs to be kind of a step back from things and just realize at the end of the day, we're just all blessed to be out here doing what we love, playing pickleball. And keep spreading aloha. Thank you for having me. And that's me.
Awesome. Aloha. Thank you for coming.
Aloha.